Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today or tonight, I'm going to be giving just a small tidbit about Khadijah radiallahu anha. If you um, see, we have our Promise series up, and we do have like very extensive notes which we took from listening to other lectures about these four women who are promised Jannah. Inshallah, like I said, this will just be a small little lecture, not lecture. That's no, I'm not that serious. A small little tidbit about Khadijah radiallahu anha. If you want something really awesome, it actually has like the whole history, her whole family, and how like in fact she was like kind of sort of like related to the prophet from the same tribe. So awesome, way beyond my knowledge, way beyond anything I could ever. I'm way beyond what I know, pretty much. Can't talk. You can look up Yasser Khadi's video over her. It's really, really awesome and very, very extensive. One awesome thing that I found out is that she's actually related. Whenever you hear the story of the Prophet ﷺ, and after Jibril came down and pretty much told him that he's a prophet, and when he came back and then he wanted to know what could this be, he went to a Christian, a super awesome Christian mega scholar. And you always hear this in stories, but in fact this major super awesome scholar was related to Khadijah radiallahu anha, and that's super awesome and kind of gives you more reason of how she could ever um, how she subhanAllah became the first Muslim. And also another thing to point out is that this super awesome scholar guy was one of the people with Zayd. And if you know Zayd, Zayd is the only person who will be standing as his own ummah, because every single prophet will be standing as their ummah. Musa being the second largest, Muhammad sallallahu being the largest, and Zayd will be standing alone because during his time there weren't any prophets, but he still stood for the truth. And anyway, when he, if you know Zayd, this Allahu Alam, of course, at the end of the day, but this is what I learned in that lecture, which is so awesome. We always hear about Zayd. Well, her relative was with him. Well, pretty much they were a pact of people who pretty much did not believe in the idol worship and all of that of the Arabs. So they became awesome friends. Kind of reminds me of Surah Kaf and the youth friends. They became friends, and of course, we all know that Zayd, of course, didn't really pick, I guess you can say, a religion type thing, but her relative became, I guess it's a judo Christian judo. Allahu Alam, please correct me. It's like a crossover between a Jew and a Christian. Judeo Christian Judeo. I probably look really ignorant, but I have an extreme bad memory. Astaghfirullah, inshallah. Allah helps me with that. But it's pretty much a Jew and a Christian, and together. Astaghfirullah, wow. I'm gonna look that up, and I'm going to remake this once I figure it out, inshallah. Um, wow, inshallah I do. And so this was really awesome. Did not know this. So that video gives you so much information. This just happens to be one thing that I keyed in on. But one thing about her story that I do want to point out, there are two things. One thing is that her steadfastness to truth. Um, it's a lot different today. Today, we have the World Wide Web, which pretty much you have all access to anything you would ever want to know in your whole life. Now, if it's 100% true, but the fact that we have so much information is like amazing. Back then, imagine all you had was the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, the people who became Muslim, and this is pretty much how you know about Islam. Today, you can pretty much Google up let me Google up Noman Ali Khan, let me Google up Yasser Khadi, let me Google, and you can pretty much Google and find out. You can pretty much, knowledge is pretty much at our hands. You don't have to go and travel hundreds of miles away to figure out the fiqh of wearing socks or anything extreme of this sort. But the difference between now and back then was today we question everything. And pretty much the sad thing about today, you can find somebody. If you want to go outside and go partying at clubs, you can find some random person on the internet who would say it's halal. Trust me, you will. And so this is the sad part. But on a different note, back to what I was talking about, ramble. it's really sad. Although we do have this vast amount of information, we question everything, and so there isn't a steadfastness to the truth. Actually, how it goes is like you look up on the internet. Let's get something really obvious. Drinking alcohol. You go up on the internet. Obviously, everything you hit says haram, 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 haram. And then you go, well, how could that be haram? I mean, it's beneficial, and I heard on the news that if you do this and you drink wine and all this, no cancer and na 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 na, and then you go and then you put science into it. And of course, although a law has made everything, science conquers all. And so if this doesn't go with science, then how in the world can a law say no to this? And then what about all the things that were, and then you just keep going and going, and then pretty much you convince yourself that everything, although you had the knowledge, although the knowledge was there, and although you know it was the truth, you've slowly convinced yourself into believing that what you saw was not the truth. And so it's kind of like this psychological game that we play with ourselves. I know because I do it too. Um, Alhamdulillah, nothing with something as serious as like that we know is 100% haram. No one can really argue with it. But this is just something that I've noticed, I guess, attacking us these days, is that first of all, science has to prove everything. And although we never think in our minds, if Allah created everything, including science, how in the world would science prove that Islam is correct? That doesn't even make any sense. Anyways, and we also just question everything because we have so much knowledge. So it's hard for us just to accept it. And that's good. Because I mean, you don't want to pick up the first thing you see. You see something that says, if you don't walk into your room with your right foot, you're going to hell. Okay, yeah, you don't want to take that. You don't want to take that as it is. You want to question it. But now we question pretty much everything. And if we just look at Khadijah radiallahu anha's story, well, not story, her life, she saw the truth and she accepted it. And also something else to take heed of, I guess you can say. I'm not a parent. Don't plan on being a parent anytime soon, but inshallah soon. Inshallah in the future, not soon. But also something that I heard from a sheikh is that if you look and see, even her relative went towards truth. So parenting is a really big issue. Of course, this isn't the main thing. During this lecture, you can take many things out of many of the people who are around the Prophet ﷺ's life. But that's also something to key on, is that even her ancestors, or at least some of them, were somewhat on the straight path. So how we raise our children also is a big issue. But a main point that I did want to pick up on is how supportive she was of the Prophet ﷺ. If we just look at today, nothing is about support. It's pretty much about destruction or competition, or, like I always say, love. And so nothing's really about being a supportive person in society. You're either the lead, like it's pretty much, oh wow, I lost train of thought. Anyway, if you just look how supportive she was when the Prophet ﷺ came down from the mountain and told her, ﷺ told her about what had just happened to him, and she comforted him. Imagine today. I mean, I'm just gonna imagine if, let's say, my brother came from some random area somewhere and was like, "Oh my gosh," and I'm gonna pull something random. "Oh my gosh, Jasmine, or let me just give something really simple. Oh my God, Jasmine, I got all A's." Really? Wow, you think you're smart? You're not that smart, buddy. Like immediately, we're not supportive at all. And I can say this for myself. I mean, I'm pretty tough on my brother just because I want him to be awesome. But when he comes in with anything like a B, even though I know he struggles in some things, I'm like, you need to work on that, or you need to, you know what I mean? And so, I'm rambling, but I think we need to be more supportive um, members in society, rather than everything being about competition and complaining, or what we like to call constructive criticism. If you have to say, "I don't mean to be rude," or "I don't mean to be mean," or "I hope this doesn't offend you," but it's probably not something you need to tell somebody. And if it's on, and this is such a side note, and if it's not beneficial what you're telling them and it's not going to help them in anything, then don't tell them, because you're not being supportive. You're just being that criticism freak who just has to complain about everything. And because you obviously are doing everything perfect in your life and you should be telling everyone else how to live. But I rambled a lot in this video. But I'm sorry. Astaghfirullah. It's really late. But if you want to hear something really awesome about Khadijah, because I'm not that awesome, listen to Yasser Khadi's video about her. It's not very it's more historical. If you listen to some of his videos, they're very like historical and fact based. But and this one is very like that. It's very like she's from here and here and here and this and that. So it's not as like, I guess you can say, reflective like some of his other videos, like very, well, think of this. But I feel like it's more you pretty much get taught who she actually was rather than who she is related to you. And so I hope in this video I kind of hit the point. I rambled a lot, and I'm really sorry that I rambled a lot. I know this wasn't that awesome, but I hope that it helped somehow. um to sum it up, we need to be steadfast towards truth and stop asking all of these questions, especially when we know it's the truth. If you see it's an elephant, how many questions do you have to ask in order to believe it's an elephant? And I know that was a corny example, but I hope that that example was okay. And secondly, we need to be more supportive. We need to have like a support system rather than always doing this constructive criticism thing, or this whole thing where we have to complain about every itsy bitsy thing that every single person does. Or just be supportive. Just at least say good job to somebody. That is so hard to do these days. I swear. Somebody gets 100 and you get a 99 and you're like, dang it. And even though they're only 1 point ahead of you, it takes like freaking, I don't know, like something in you to just say good job. Why is it so hard just to be supportive of people? Somebody's making like, okay, you're a poor guy and they're rich. Can you just be like, awesome? And even towards the guy that's rich, can you, I know you're big shot, hot shot, awesome, drive your Porsche, and everyone else drives a freaking $10,000 car. Can you at least say, good job, awesome? I mean, come on, guys, we have to be more supportive. Um, and look what happens when you're not supportive. But Rambo. Alhamdulillah, thank you so much for listening. I hope that it helped some that's how you can tell what time it is. I hope it helped somewhat, and like usual, can't find my mouse. Hope it helped somewhat, and inshallah, anything good is from Allah, of course, and everything else is from me. And have a great day, night, afternoon, evening. Assalamu alaikum.